This is TG with TechmadeEZ. Welcome to my channel. My channel is all about making things affordable, practical, and easy. What we're going to be doing today is we're going to be looking at 3 lightweight Linux distributions for older PCs and laptops. Now, this is the whole thing, is that these aren't the only options that they're available. Some of the other options, though, are more terminal driven, or they're harder to install, or the GUI interface, the graphical interface, just isn't that great of an interface. So I've chosen 3 I've chosen 3 Linux distros that I feel are the best options for older PCs and laptops. One is antiX Linux. The other one is Q4OS Linux, and the other one is Linux Mint XFCE. Now it's the XFCE. Linux Mint comes in 3 flavors. They come in Cinnamon, XFCE, and Mate. The XFCE GUI interface is very efficient, and so these are ones that I recommend for a lower end hardware. In fact, when I first started using Linux, I used Linux. In fact, when I first started using Linux, I used Linux Mint Cinnamon XFCE. The PC I was using wasn't very powerful, didn't have a great graphics card in it, and it worked great. The original I started out with Linux Cinnamon, but it wasn't very snappy. A bit more overhead with Linux Cinnamon, and so the XFCE version is excellent. So, and this video is not necessarily if you're on Windows 10 right now, but you're on newer hardware, but if that newer hardware just isn't compatible with Windows 11, I have other videos and other options for that as well. And so, but these are options. Now, if you're a gamer, I wouldn't recommend these for gaming. If you're doing light computer work, searching the web, so on and so forth, maybe you have a child or a friend that maybe just needs a computer where they have access to the internet, so on and so forth. Now, this is the challenge with older PCs and laptops, is the amount of RAM that they have. In today's, with today's computing, when we bought this laptop 20 plus years ago, my wife was just using it for QuickBooks and word processing and spreadsheets. The internet was new back then. Not a lot of browsing was done on the internet, but now today, mostly everybody is on a browser, and browsers take up a lot of RAM. So no matter what system you have, your RAM is going to give you a limitation on how efficient your PC is, even with Linux, because you can't escape the fact that they use a lot of RAM. So I would say that if you have an older system and you're searching and you're going to be on the web a lot, you need at least 4 gigs of RAM. You're not going to be able to have very many tabs open with 4 gigs of RAM, but that will at least allow you to have multiple applications open and a couple of tabs open in your browser. So this video is going to be a little lengthy just because we are going to install one of them and we're going to get it set up to be a daily driver. So there's a little bit of things that we're going to do to make it easy to jump in and just start using it. Let's get started. Okay, I apologize, I have to use my camera for this one, but this is my old Toshiba laptop. It's more than 20 years old. It's got a dual core Intel CPU, not a very powerful one. It's got 4 gigs of RAM. I can't believe when we bought this, it was running Vista. Don't get me wrong, it was running it really slow. The hard drive never stopped. I put XP on it. We used it for years that way until my wife updated a laptop to another laptop. But even in today's modern world, even with Linux, it's a little challenging to use it, but you can use it. On this particular laptop, I would only use anti-Linux on it. It can run the other 2 operating systems, Mint, XFCE, and Q4OS, but it's a little more laggier than anti-Linux. And you can see over here, it's running 162 gigabytes of RAM, so it's going to be really efficient. Now, Linux can run on anything, but as soon as you throw a GUI desktop on it, that's when you run into challenges. And then also, like I mentioned, in today's world, mostly everybody's doing on the internet, and they have multiple tabs open, using up tons of RAM. My wife usually has maybe 50 tabs open at a time. And so, so I have to give her a lot of RAM so she doesn't run out because of all the tabs she does. But at any rate, I just want to show you the performance here. This is your application menu. Now, the one thing that, one of the things I don't like about NT-Linux is that even though it's a GUI interface, it doesn't have the same functionality as, say, Windows or even your modern day Linux operating systems. In other words, what I mean is if I want to put a program on the toolbar, I can't do it through here. I've got to go into an application that is kind of text driven. It's a little archaic. You can do it, but it's not as easy as just right mouse clicking on it and say save to toolbar or save to desktop. So, but I just want to show here, let's go open up Chrome. I don't plan on spending very much time on this one because This is not the one that we're going to install, but I do want to let you know it is an option. Let's just go to YouTube really quick and we'll launch a YouTube video. And again, the performance of this is really based on not Linux itself, but how old the CPU is and so on and so forth. So let's just go ahead and click on a video here, and it's going to play it fine. It plays it fine. You can have multiple tabs open here, but again, we're now at almost 800 megabytes of RAM because of the browser. So if you're running applications on here with 4 gigs of RAM, no big deal. But if you're going to run a whole bunch of tabs on here, that's where it becomes your limitation on all of your older laptops and CPUs. So just wanted to show you that. We'll just go ahead and close this now, and so on and so forth. So that's just a quick review of anti-Linux. It's really easy to install. When you see how to install the other one, it's pretty much the same with anti-Linux. If you want to try it on something, you can do that. But let's go ahead and let's jump into the other applications because they're more relevant to what I'm doing in this presentation. One last thing before we go to the other distros, I want to just show you the package manager here, or software manager. You just go ahead and click on it. Every Linux distro has a software manager, and you generally don't have to go out to the internet for most applications. You can go right into here and you just pick on a topic, or you can search for it in the search bar. But let's just say I'm going to go click on the browser and I'll click on Brave, and then I just hit install and it's done. It's that easy. Okay, so here I am on my Linux desktop. Now let me just go over the system that I'm using here. This system isn't the worst system in the world. It does have an i7-77 or 3770 in it. It's 4 cores, 8 threads. It's actually, that CPU is actually a pretty good CPU. And then it's got 8 gigs of RAM on it. And the operating system that we're looking at is Linux Mint XFCE. And you're going to notice here, after a new install, you're looking at your base memory is 742 megabytes. Now obviously as you start opening apps and using that, that's going to change, so on and so forth. But this is a very efficient interface. This would be my first choice for any older system, but I do have another choice that I'm going to put ahead of Linux Mint Cinnamon just because it uses less RAM than Linux Mint XFCE. It uses less RAM, anywhere between 450 to 550 megabytes depending on the options that you choose to install with that operating system. But I wanted to show you this because Linux Mint XFCE is an excellent operating system for your low-end computers. And so I would actually try it first, or you can try the other operating system we're going to look at. The install is the same for both of them. The only thing I would say after installing Linux Mint Cinnamon is that you want to go do your updates immediately. Some applications may not install until you do your update, so that is very important to update the system right after you install it. But let's just launch. I'm just going to launch YouTube here really quick. You'll notice that it's pretty snappy, and of course YouTube is just going to depend on internet speed, so on and so forth. But here's a thing on Linux Mint Cinnamon, so on. So it's very, 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 very useful. And actually, if we go to the terminal here, and let's just type in htop, you're going to see that now we're at 142 gigabytes of RAM because we've opened up a browser, so on and so forth. But if we want, we can go in here, go into Office. I'll open up that same application, Linux, LibreOffice Calc, and so on and so forth. It just works very efficiently. It's a very, very, very efficient interface. But the next one we're going to look at uses less RAM. If you're limited to 4 gigs of RAM on an older system, then again, like I said, what takes up a system's processing power and RAM today are browsers, and everybody's on browsers. So so that's why let's go ahead and look at the other operating system. We're going to install it, so on and so forth. So let's switch over to Q4OS. Okay, really quick before we go to Q4OS, I just want to show you this interface here. If you're familiar with Linux, obviously you're going to know this, but if you're not, this is what they call KDE Plasma. This is a GUI interface. Like I mentioned before, there's a lot of GUI interfaces that you can use with Linux. So, and KDE Plasma is probably the closest interface, this and Linux Mint, to running Windows as far as the graphical interface goes. It operates very similar to Windows, so on and so forth. So the reason why I'm showing you this is because Q4OS, they use a derivative of KDE Plasma. And so let's go ahead and let's take a look at it. All right, so here we are on Q4OS. Now the Q4OS uses the Trinity desktop. The Trinity desktop is an early version of KDE Plasma. The reason why they're using it, and some distros have maintained this Trinity desktop, is because it doesn't take as many resources.
And so this, and we'll take a look at it when we do a fresh install. I've got some apps that I open and so on and so forth. So we'll take a look at what the RAM usage is on a fresh install or a fresh reboot. But it's usually around 450 megabytes. Now, if you install the basic version, is 450 megabytes. But the basic version, as you'll see when we go to install this, is that it doesn't include a lot of productivity apps. But you can go in and install whatever apps you want, and that's why they do it, give people an option. The other desktops are more terminal. They're terminal based only. But anyway, so let's just take a look at this really quick. Let's take a quick tour. Basically, you have your start menu here, and here's all of your categories. And I'm not going to go over what all these apps do. I'm just going to show you the categories really quick. There are some games in here to start off with. Again, I wouldn't use this as a gaming distro. I'm more or less using this for low-powered or older PCs or laptops, just so you can have some functionality out of them and use them as some type of productive desktop, searching the internet, so on and so forth. Under graphics, we have the this image viewer. That's how you view the your pictures, and you can do some light modifications. Internet here, and it automatically will install the Chromium desktop. And I would recommend Chromium on any low-end or systems, because Chromium just seems to be a lot more efficient. It just seems to be faster, takes up less RAM to run, so on and so forth, than Google Chrome. And you can put Google Chrome on here if you want, but I'm trying to keep everything as lightweight as possible. So then we got here multimedia. It comes installed VLC, some recording tools, so on, playing music. It just gives you all your basic tools that you need as a functional desktop. And so, and we got some multiple Office programs in here, and the reason why is it does come installed with LibreOffice. And LibreOffice is great, but I'm just not a LibreOffice fan. I prefer what's called FreeOffice, and that's what's installed here, and I'll show you that here in a minute. So we're just going to go here. Now, there is a PDF viewer as well, and there are ways to edit PDFs in Linux, but this isn't part of that, so I just want to show you these really quick. So under here, there's a science formula thing. Settings, this is just where you're going to go to change your settings. I'm not going to go through all these settings, so on and so forth, but then we're going to go here to System, and System is just where you got all your tools, and File Manager, some other stuff here. This is where you go to the terminal, so on and so forth. Anyway, you just look at that. You can install packages, you can install applications from here. So basically, the utilities is also some utilities that are used in Linux as well. So that's basically what you have. So let me show you FreeOffice real quick. This is their word processor, and I just like the looks of this one a little bit better. And this is a thing too. It's easier to set up to save it as Word documents. It gives you a choice when you first do it. Do you want to use their default format, or do you want to use Microsoft format? Of course, I always choose Microsoft. LibreOffice, you have to go into some setup and change some things. It's not that bad, but anyway. So as far as the toolbar goes here, most of your newer Linux desktops, you can right-click on something and add it to the toolbar. You can add this to the desktop, but to the toolbar. And again, this is really for this particular one. Most of your newer, like Linux Mint, XFCE, you can do all that function in the menu. But here you can click on where the apps are in your toolbar, right mouse click there, and hit Add Application, then go grab the one that you want. I'm going to put the spreadsheet program here as well, and then I can also move this if I want to. I can put those where I want. So let's configure the panel here, and I'm just going to move this over. At any rate, let me just open up the browser real quick. It's going to open up quick. We go to YouTube, and again, YouTube's just going to load depending on your speed of your internet, so on and so forth. I'm just going to play this. I do have the sound turned off because I don't want to get any copyright restricted or anything like that. But it's fast, easy, so on and so forth. So that's a kind of a brief overview of the interface here. Now, if I was to stick in a USB, Linux is compatible with NTFS, so you can share all of your stuff there. I'm not going to use this. I'm just going to go into my file manager, and it will show up. And one thing you have to get used to in Linux is it doesn't have drive letters. It has devices. So that device I just put in is a 16 gig USB. I just click on it, and there's my information here, and just a text file, so on and so forth. Again, as long as you're formatting your USBs to NTFS-C while you're using Linux, and Linux allows you to do that, then you can share your documents back and forth. That's not a problem at all. Reading FAT32, drive, so on and so forth. So this is not a complete tutorial of the interface, but I just wanted to show you that it's very window-like. It's very, very reactive. Again, low on resources for 550. Of course, as soon as you start opening applications, then that's going to go down. In fact, if I want, I can go in here and I can just see how much RAM I'm using now. It's going to be more than 450 because I do have some apps open, and we've been opening apps and so on and so forth. But if we want, we can just go in here. We can type, click on this. This will tell me how much RAM is being used. Right now, it's 790, and that's because I've got a couple of applications open here that I'm going to show you in a minute here. So I might just leave this open for a minute, and you'll see as I open up the browser and I go into YouTube, how much that's going to add to using up my memory. Now this one has 8 gigs of RAM, better than the 4 gigs. So, you know, again, just depends on how many tabs you open, so on and so forth. Now what I'm going to do here is I want to talk to you, because this is the thing about Linux. If you're not used to Linux, then you're going to be wondering, well, how do I install my apps? Well, Linux has what they call an app repository. Every distribution has an app repository. You generally don't go out to the internet to install applications. On rare occasions, there are some applications that you go download and you just double click on them and they install just like they do in Windows. Of course, it has to be a Linux install file, not a Windows install file, but it's installed the same way. But I do want to talk about applications for a minute, because that's where it becomes a little bit more different with Linux. So they have what they call app stores. Now you can either install the apps through the terminal, or you can install them through a GUI. Now this particular desktop, I don't like any of the GUI I don't like this particular desktop. I don't like the GUI interfaces for installing applications. If you're using Linux Mint Cinnamon or Linux Mint XFCE, sorry, or KDE Plasma, they have what they call, KDE Plasma has what they call the Discovery Store. Linux Mint has their Software Center as well. They're both really similar on how they function, how they look, but they just gives you a nice, pretty graphical interface, and I'll show you that here in a sec. But I first want to show you what the two software centers look like. This one's really basic. What they do is they only give you 83 apps to choose from. And so what they've done in this app center is they've tried to just pick certain apps that they think that you might want to install. In fact, they included Microsoft Edge. I don't know if you know that, but you can install Microsoft Edge, and here's Dropbox, so on and so forth. But it's really limited on how many apps that you can install from here. And they also have, you'll notice how like checkmark as Chrome has a checkmark on it because it's installed. Flatpaks is installed. Synaptic is installed. Now I wanted to explain Snappaks or Flatpaks here in a minute, but Synaptic is just another software GUI. So if I scroll down here, I'm going to see Krita here. Krita is just a drawing package, a vector drawing package, and we can just click on it and hit install application. But what I want to show you, but it's limited, again, this is limited on their apps. So they've provided, and I don't know why they decided to provide both of these here. The Synaptic Pack Manager has been used for years in Linux, but when I first started using Linux, coming from Windows, I first tried to use this. So let's just type in Krita here for a minute. So Krita that we were just looking at over here, it's just there. You click on it and hit install, easy. But in here you click on Krita, and then it's got all of these files that are here, and it makes it difficult to know, do I just install this one and I mark it to be installed? When I mark this, then what it's going to do, all of these files it needs to run, so it's going to mark all of the files underneath here. Okay, let me scroll down and just show you. So it marks the ones that are necessary for it to install, but what's confusing is it has these other, see, look, there's these ones that haven't been marked for installation. And so should you mark them? Probably, but why didn't it mark them all? Should it go with the program? So it's kind of a confusing way. To me, and I know if you're a Linux person and you've been using Linux for 10, 15 years, that you're going to poo-poo me for saying this, but as a new user coming in, we're not used to having to go in something and pick a whole bunch of files to install an application. We just install one app, one file, right? But most of your modern day Linux desktop distros come with a real modern application store or manager, and this is called the Discovery, and this is KDE's Discovery Manager. So then if I type in Krita here, and it's already listed down there, but let's just type it in for a minute. Then I just click on it and I install it, okay, and that's it. So kind of like their software center, but now I have access to a plethora of applications, and I'm not saying you'll know what applications to go in here and install, but let me just show you something here. If we type in Zoom, okay, Zoom is in here. If we type in say, so if we type in Discord is in here. Okay, oops, gotta spell it right. And there's Discord, and we just install it. And what you're going to find is too, and you'll notice VLC is over here. There's a lot of apps today that are cross-platform between Windows, Mac, and Linux, which makes the transition to Linux way easier because there's so many cross-platform applications. And if they're not cross-platform, then you can usually find a substitute that works just as good. In rare occasions, and I wouldn't recommend this here, you can install a VM and other ways to run Windows apps, but they're a little bit more cumbersome than if you're just running a native app in Linux or something that is a substitute app that does the same job as it does in Windows. But anyway, this is just to get you started and a little tour. So now what we're going to do is we're going to install this. And one of the things that we're going to do here is it doesn't come with the Discovery Store. So I'm going to show you how to install that. It's really easy. Everything's going to be in the links below. It's just cut and paste and boom, it's done. I also installed a different file manager. I'm not in love with the default file manager that comes with Trinity. I find it a little cumbersome, so we're going to install this other file manager, which is way more user-friendly, more kind of like your file manager in Windows, so on and so forth. Makes it really easy to manage your files. Just so you know, in Linux there are multiple file managers, and I've got a video if you want to watch that on some file managers and what the differences of them are, and so on and so forth. So it makes it really easy to connect to a server. And again, it's not showing it as a drive letter. It's going to show a description and so on. Like I said, this is not a complete tour of the desktop. I just wanted to give you just make it a little familiar. And you'll notice it's really familiar to Windows. And you could actually say this is kind of maybe like more Windows 7-ish, maybe somewhere like that. So let's go ahead. Let's jump on to Windows. Let's download the file. And let's burn it to a boot disk. Get on this Dell 910 that I'm on right now. Reinstall it and set it up for a daily driver. All right, so here I am on Windows desktop. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the browser. I'm just going to give you a couple things to download. Rufus. If you don't have a way to make a bootable install disk, Rufus is one of the options that you have. If you have a way to do that, then you don't have to use Rufus. You can use whatever tool you have. But I would always use the one with the P here. That's portable. It doesn't have to be installed. And then if you want, I'll leave all these links down below. If you wanted to try XFCE Mint Edition, then you would just download it right here. Again, the Cinnamon Edition is a great edition, but for low-powered systems, you'd want to do the XFCE version. antiX, they do have other versions of antiX, and I probably did the full. So if you want to do that with without all those extra applications, you could probably do the core, so on and so forth. But the problem is with this program, it's not really straightforward how to install apps. You might have to go to the terminal. It's just a little, even though it's a GUI interface, I don't think the GUI interface is very intuitive, so on and so forth. But it is lightweight, and it'll run on almost anything. So, and then Q4OS is right here. Now they do have the Plasma version here. If you wanted to run the Plasma version, I might recommend different distros. Especially if you're gamers, something like PikaOS, and I'll leave a link down below on how to install PikaOS and make it your daily driver for gaming. But the one that we're looking for is this Trinity version live, and so that's the one that we want to get. And so when you click on this, it'll automatically, well, we'll just click on it, and it'll ask you if you want to donate. You don't have to donate. You can just say not now, take me directly to downloads, and it will go ahead and download it automatically for you. So I've already downloaded everything, so let's go ahead. I'm going to stick, I have a USB in the drive. I'm just going to go ahead and open up Rufus. I always put Rufus in its own folder because it does create an INE file when you launch it. And it shows here, it already grabbed my USB drive right here. So now what I'm going to do is I need to select my operating system. Now the file that I downloaded is this one here. I actually downloaded the, there's two, now there are two files in here because this one is the KDE version. I just wanted to check it out. But this is one that you're going to want to get. So I'm going to go ahead and grab that. And you don't have to change anything in here. You just hit start and off we go, and so on and so forth. Just go ahead and hit OK and yes to everything. And then once that's done, we can go ahead and pull it out and go to our machine. And once it's done, it'll just say that it's ready. And so let's just go ahead and go to the machine there. All right, so once that says ready, then we're ready to go ahead and install this on our system. Dell Optiplex, and I hit the boot menu, which is F12. Depending on your motherboard, you'll have to find out which key it is. You may have to go into your BIOS, and you may have to set it up on UEFI. You may want to turn off Secure Boot if it's on. Some Linux distributions work with Secure Boot, some don't, so I would just turn it off. But then I just hit this, and I put it on a Samsung flash drive, thumb drive, and so I'm just going to hit that, and we're going to hit enter. And then it's going to give me this here, and so we're going to just do Q4OS 6 Trinity. Just hit enter. Now what this is going to do is this is going to take us into the live session, and then we'll install it from there. All right, so the live disk has booted up, and what it means by a live disk, whenever you install Linux, it brings you to the GUI interface, so you can basically test it before you drive it. And then there's usually an icon for installing it. I'm going to close this for a minute. We will use that. So we're just going to go over here and install the program. And again, like I talked about, if you're going to install Linux Mint XFCE, it's going to be the same type of interface. Now the other one, we're just going to choose our language, our location, our keyboard. Now once you get to this section here, it's going to give you some options. So you're going to have the desktop, you're going to have basic, then you're going to have live, and then you're going to have plus. So what you want to do is you want to choose either the desktop or the basic. The desktop will give you more applications like an Office Suite, video player, so on and so forth. So I'd recommend doing the desktop version, and we'll just go ahead and...
Okay, so when you get here, just make sure you're installing it on the right disk. And also too, there's this install along. That's if you're having another operating system, say Windows, and you want to keep Windows, it'll install it next to Windows. When you click on this, you will have to go on here, and you'll have to go ahead and choose how much of the drive you're going to give the new operating system. And then when you boot, it'll give you the option to boot into Q4OS or whatever your other operating system is, whether it's Windows or something else.
I do have an operating system on this drive, but I want to erase the whole thing, so I'm just going to hit erase. Then I'm going to hit next. Then I'm going to put in my username, and you can put in whatever computer description you want here. I'm just going to put Dell, and then I'm going to put in my password here, and we're going to get done, install, and then that's it. And then once that's done, we're just going to reboot and go into the system, and we'll get it set up to use as a daily driver.
Okay, once you reboot after install, it's going to ask you for your username and password, and then it's going to take a minute to activate the desktop. So if it freezes for a little bit, I already opened it, so that didn't have to go through that. But it does open up with this welcome screen and this music, and the music is not, I don't think it's related to this program, but I haven't figured out a way to shut it. But okay, so after we get here, then again we are going to use this welcome screen to make a few changes for us. But at this point, I want to just want to adjust the toolbar real quick, and I like about half length on my toolbar just because my monitor is a little bigger. It's just harder to reach the mouse over there. So I'm just going to apply that here, and now I've got one that's more functional in front of me. This Run Desktop Profiler, I don't even know why they have it there, because you choose that when you download or install. So I don't worry about that. Install applications. Let's just look at that for a quick sec, because people coming from Windows Linux, they're not going to realize certain conditions of the operating system or features of the operating system that either they can make it way easier than Windows, or it can be about the same. One of them is installing apps. And so I already went over this Software Center at the review, but one thing I was going to talk about was Flatpaks. Flatpaks is another way for Linux to distribute applications. And by using a Flatpak, they don't have to program for 3 different operations, because in Linux there's 3 main different operations. There's Debian, Fedora, and Arch, and this is Debian based, by the way. So, but they don't have any way for you to install any Flatpak applications. And what I think they've done, because some of the applications they have in here, you're only available on a Flatpak. So what they've done is, I think, I'm not for sure, but I think Dropbox is, well, it does, it says Flatpak right there. That's what I thought. That's why they have Flatpaks included, because a lot of applications today take Flatpaks. So, but let's just get it going. Let's get our new store in that gives us a lot more options and isn't as archaic as the Synaptic Package Manager. So there's not very many, but all these cut and place text in the terminal, I'll leave all the links for that, everything that you need to do this. And so what we're looking for here now, though, is we want to just update the system really quick. It's probably up to date. I have noticed that sometimes when I'm doing on a new distro and I don't update right away, some applications won't install. So all that was doing was just checking for updates and then upgrading it if it needed it. And it didn't need it. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and install the Plasma Discovery Store. Just answer yes. Okay, now that we've got that installed, we're just going to install one more thing. Now, just so you know, you don't have to do this on every distro that I'm doing right now. You definitely want to do the updates, but most of them will have a robust software center or software manager. It's just some of these older ones, even though they're maintaining this, they haven't swapped out for some of those applications. But what we're going to do now is Linux doesn't come with Microsoft Treetop fonts, and so, but you can install them. So that's what I've done here, this whole line here. And again, this will be all in the description. You can cut and paste, so on and so forth. And then you just hit that, and you just hit it, and we'll agree that we want to install it. And these fonts are going to be like Arial, Times Roman, whatever other Microsoft fonts they may have. It's quite a few fonts that get installed. So there we go. We're done there. Okay, I want to talk about the menu for a minute because you can modify your start menu. And so if I click on this is the thing I don't like about this particular interface. Look, I got to go down a layer, down another layer, and then there I get to my applications that are installed. So we're going to change that with the switch start menu, and we're just going to put it at category. Just hit apply. We'll basically get pretty much the same thing. It's just that when we go into applications, they're right there. So we don't have to worry about going back and forth. Okay, so let me just talk about the menu, the start menu for a minute for your applications. This is your favorite section here, and the way I organize my Linux desktop, I put the most used icons or programs on the toolbar, and then the ones that I use on occasion I put in the start menu, so they're under favorites, and favorites automatically comes up here. So some of these were put in the favorites, some of them weren't, but the problem is just look how many layers you have to get to your applications. And then again, this is another layer for your applications as well. So but the good thing is we do have a switch smart menu, and so you're going to put this on categories, hit OK, and now you can see if I go to applications, they're all right there. I don't have to go through a whole bunch of folders to do that. Okay, one of the things I need to talk about is screen scaling. So instead of options to change to 1024 or 4K, they give you this screen scaling. Now I don't need it on here because I'm running 1024, even though my monitor is a 4K monitor. You can go ahead and increase the size of your desktop. If say you have a 4K or a 2K monitor, you want to adjust it. So that's what the screen scaling was all about. And as a message came up when we first booted up. And then, like I said, login. You can do an auto login where you don't have to put your username and password in. Like throws you onto the desktop. Installing applications, we're going to have a different way of installing now. We do need to install these proprietary codes, but first, what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and add discovery to the toolbar, and then I'll let you also know how you do that. So I'm going to go here, add, and then there's the discovery. And so now we have the discovery card right here, or discovery card, the discovery manager or software manager. Okay, now the discovery store is sitting here. I just want to show you a couple of things, and I'm going to install one thing while we're on it. So if we do, Nemo is my favorite file manager, and the file manager that has come with Trinity, it's like I said, it's an older version of KDE Plasma, and so it just doesn't have all the tools on it as robust in this one as they are in KDE Plasma. But again, we could have done KDE Plasma, but again, it's using more memory, and so on and so forth. This is very quick. You can run this on mostly everything. But so if we want to install this, we just go ahead and click on it, and then we hit install. We could have installed it from out there too, put in our password, and now we'll have Nemo. Why that's installing, it'll take a sec. I want to show you some other applications, because a lot of people don't realize there's a lot of cross-platform applications now that didn't used to be. Like VLC, I'll just type it in. I mean, it's VLC, they're using that as their video player, but I'm just giving you that as an example. Okay, so I did get ahead of myself because in the Discovery Store Manager, you need to go into settings here, and what'll pop up is right down here. I don't know if you can see it. It says Integrate Flatpak application into Discovery. So Flatpak is installed here, but there is no way to install a Flatpak unless you're using their minimal software center. So we're going to go ahead and toggle this on. We don't have to worry about snaps. Snaps is another conversation, but you'll be fine with Flatpaks and the way this is set up now. So now what happens is if we search on Discord, it'll show up, and it shows it up as a Flatpak. Okay. So now that we've turned Flatpaks on, this is why it's really important to turn Flatpaks on or to have access, because there's a lot of programmers today who will only write applications to the FlatHub. They're Flatpaks. They're not relying on the operating system. They're kind of containerized, and so when you do an update, it won't affect any of the files that run that. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to install one more application and we're almost done. So now the free Office is a competitive Microsoft Office. It's free. They do have a paid version. I don't know everything you get with the paid version. I'm just a simple Microsoft person, and I know a lot of people now are using Google Docs, Google Sheets, so on and so forth. And but like I said, I'm just not a fan of I'm just not like I said before, I'm just not a huge fan of LibreOffice. Nothing wrong with it, but the kind of stuff I do, I'd rather do it with this. And here's your download. You'll download the dev package right here, so on and so forth. I've already downloaded it, so let's just go to downloads here, and all you have to do is, just like on Windows, you just double click on it and it's gonna start installing. That's all you have to do to install an application that you may not be able to find in the software manager. This particular case, the Discovery Software Manager. Okay, once that's installed, we'll hit finish, and let's go ahead and start putting some stuff on the toolbar here. And we can close this. So I'm just going to grab a Nemo, because I prefer to use Nemo than their default. So what I'm doing here is I'm just going into the Office, and I'm just putting on, I use a word processor on the spreadsheet. Not every day, but I use them. So that's, I'm going to launch this. It'll give me a welcome screen when I first launch this one. And I'm going to use this as touch mode. Just makes the icons bigger. Go ahead, OK. Now that we've opened that for the first time, we can open it again, and it should open up a lot quicker. So there we go. And then the spreadsheet as well. Okay, we're going to put Chrome on the toolbar, so we're just going to go ahead and add the app. Okay, one last thing, I just want to open the browser. It functions very well in here. I'm going to go to a video, and we just start playing that just like normal, Windows, so on and so forth. Anyway, so this was kind of be a longer video just because I wanted to show a little bit of difference between all three, but install this one and get it up to par to being a daily driver. Alright, so this video was a lot longer than I was hoping for. I tried to do it as quick as I can, but to cover 3 operating systems and install one and get it to where you can use it as a daily driver. It takes a little bit of time. Appreciate you watching this, but I do want to mention that you can use this on new hardware too. It's just if I was doing new hardware, I'd probably get a KDE Plasma distro that automatically includes KDE Plasma. You could use Linux Mint Cinnamon as well as the XFCE. It's just that the Linux Mint XFCE is going to be more efficient than the Cinnamon one as far as processing and RAM that it's using. And to answer the age-old question, what is too old for Linux? That just depends on you. That laptop of mine, it really struggles to perform. Again, antiX no problem, but the screen also isn't the best screen because it was made 20 plus years ago, and so, but I keep it around just to experiment with it is all. So, but anyway, I hope this was helpful. If you've got some old computers laying around, maybe an old i3, i5, i7, want to throw Linux on there so you can at least surf the web, do some basic production work, then this is a great option as well. This is TJ with TechmadeEZ. Have a great day. Thanks.
Now that was